you, Royston, Silver. Right, hopefully you can hear us or hear me at the minute. And in a minute, any minute now, I'm going to bring you up in. I'm going to bring Alex up on the. Sorry, I've got right kerfuffle tonight with the technology going wrong, and I need to chill my beans. Right, that's better. Okay, right. Rather than mess about, we're going to crack straight on, and hopefully, when I push this button, Alex will appear. Hey, I can see you, Alex. I don't know if anybody else can. Guys, can you see Alex from Alex Morley Plastering? Can you see him?
Hello, everybody. Well, I can see myself on my own YouTube.
Cool.
I'm pretty sure it's working. Hello, Eric. Thanks for having us.
No worries, mate.
You can now relax with the stress levels you had 10 minutes ago.
I couldn't believe it was bad. Yes, mate. No. All right, Danny. Cool. Right, they can see and hear us, mate, which is all that matters. Yeah, sorry, guys. Earlier on, I was having a lot of trouble. Me and Alex were trying to get the stream working so we could see each other on the Skype-in, because you have to Skype to be able to come in and talk to me on here. And then we went to go for the live stream, and the live streaming wasn't working, so we had to have a twiddle about on there. But now we're all sorted. Alex from Alex Morley Plastering, welcome to After Plaster, mate.
Hello, mate. Thanks for having us. I'm sure it'll be a good laugh.
Yeah, no, we should have a good crack. We should have a good crack.
Probably everybody's opinion of me after tonight will probably be going downhill rapidly. So.
Well, no, a lot of them might have been looking forward to it. I'm assuming because they watch you a lot, so they should know, what you're like. But yeah, your popularity I'm pretty sure will rise, mate, after being an After Plasterer. said he. Sure. Looking at you've been, I'm guessing from what I've briefly looked at, mate, is that your YouTube channel has only been going for roughly about a year. Have you been putting that out?
Yeah.
And already, mate, 3,000 plus subs. So. It's doing really nicely considering the amount of time you've taken on it, which is great. But before we get into your channel talk, what a lot of guys, and especially me, want to know is the whole plastering thing. Because you've been at it about 15 years now, mate. How did you get into it, and how did it all begin? How did it all begin?
Well, funnily enough, it's not my first trade, to be totally honest with you. I know, sacrilege.
Tell me, what was it before?
So, if you can believe it or not, I was actually a carpenter before.
You went from a really nice, tidy trade that earns decent money, and you became a spread. Sorry, mate, you carry on.
I know. To be totally honest with you, so I was always doing plastering anyway when I was doing the carpentry work. Yeah. So I did all of the qualifications in carpentry you can literally imagine. The carpentry, the joinery, the cabinet making, the whole shebang. And I ended up settling on a kitchen firm, so we were smashing out kitchens like nobody's business, like very high-end kitchens. And I think we were doing maybe 2 or 3 a week. It was a real cane in it sort of thing. And then I was able to plaster from a pretty young age. I sort of first got an introduction onto the trowel with my dad, to be totally honest with you. And then when they kind of find out you can do it with plastering, the kitchen firm ended up asking me to do all the plastering work for them. So it was pretty much every week we were plastering the kitchen and then putting the kitchen in afterwards. And it went like that for quite a while. And I ended up packing the job in. And then I thought, do you know what? I might just start doing kitchens on my own. And after about 6 months, I was just, I've had enough of this. This juggling between doing plastering and doing carpentry and what have you. And I'd so much money in tools. Everything I owned was a particular brand called Festal.
This is your chippy tools you're talking about now.
This is absolutely thousands and thousands of pounds. And it got to the point where I was paying about £300 a month for a unit.
Wow.
To store the carpentry tools while I was plastering.
Well, crazy.
So it was this kind of very rapid fade out of plastering, so I just wasn't doing a lot of it. Very rapid fade out of carpentry. Wasn't doing a lot of it. Storing all the tools in a unit, and it got to that point I was earning more money off a £45 plastering trowel than I was a £1,500 chop saw.
Fair dues.
And I just thought, why am I doing this? And I just thought, I've had enough of this. I'd done my back in quite badly, kitchen fitting, because it's so high end and everything is extremely heavy. And it was the money was really good, but he wanted a pound of flesh, and it was getting to the point where, let's say for instance, you could have a week to fit a kitchen. It was then a week to fit the kitchen, but you got to plaster it as well.
In a week?
And it was so you just add the work to it, and it was getting brutal, and my back was suffering terrible. I was spending about £45 a week going to the osteopath, and I just thought, forget it. So and it was probably more than that. Now it might even be well over 50-60 quid now. It was quite a few years ago now, and I ended up thinking I've had enough of this. So I thought I'd looked online, and there was a company that was advertising for plasterers, and I just contacted them and just said, look, I'm not a plasterer, but I can plaster. And they were like, okay, come down and we'll see how you do for the week. He was like, yeah, I think you've got potential. He absolutely ripped my plastering to shreds, as you can imagine. Because he's like, he was a really nice guy, unbelievable plasterer. And he'd been going for about 25, 30 years, old school, everything on one trowel, bloody, blah, all of that sort of thing. So he slashed how much I was earning by over 50%.
Did that not change your mind and think, we'll stick with the chippy work?
No, because I'm very, very quick at learning, and there wasn't really anything wrong with the plastering. It's just, it's it's always the last 5% with plastering. It's getting a wall. They always say getting the wall is smooth is easy. Getting it flat's a bit harder. Getting the corners sharp is very difficult. And there's 3 levels of plastering. And although you can get it flat and smooth, it's just that last really neat corners and all that sort of thing. So he just ripped me to shreds. And I just said to him, I'll take the hit on the money, but I want to review the money every month. And within 3 months, I was back to what I was earning before.
Oh, fair dues, mate. So, definitely a quick learner.
Yeah. Well, and then we used to race, and I think after 3 months, we had a race, and he beat me by hardly anything, and it was just I genuinely thought I wouldn't beat you. And he was always pushing to try and get you better, all the time, hounding you on the smallest of things.
Yeah, that sounds like a good
then. Brilliant. So patient. Didn't massively need it, to be fair, but even silly things like when you're rushing, you cut beads a little bit short, and he'd be like,
"I've done that today, mate, twice." Yeah, in the years I've been doing it.
But he never made me rip it off. He still let me skim it in, and then see why we don't cut them short.
Right.
So it was well, I see why you've done that, but now you've plastered it. Can you see why we don't do it like that, and why we take our time, and why we get it right?
Right.
So, so there was always this. Yeah. He was a good guy, and he just ripped me to shreds, and after that, I never looked back. And a very, when you then don't do any carpentry work for 1 or 2 years, you get the odd person who's like, "Would you just?" And you're like,
"No."
Okay, and then just well, no, this was years ago.
Oh, right.
And then now, the other day, me and Louis were on a job, and I had to put some skirt. Oh, it's so funny. I had to put some skirting in, and I just said to Louis, I was just like,
mate,
it was so much hard work. I just said to the customer, because they were getting kitchen fitters, and I was like, look, here's the skirting. Can you just get them to do it? I just I can't be bothered.
I don't blame you, but I thought you'd think, well, a bit of skirting for an ex-chippy, I can whack that in, no problem. But
absolutely not. I was just like, no, thank you. Do you know what's funny is I sold nearly all of the Festal tools, but a few things.
Yeah.
So I had a plunge saw, a router, and what have you.
Yeah.
But then everything else, I switched over to DeWalt cordless gear, and I thought, you know what, if anything happens, I'm caught in a bind. I've got those tools,
Yeah.
and we just moved house, and I was trimming the bottom of the doors down with this plunge saw, and I'm thinking,
No.
I hate this. Just absolutely hate this. So I'm, yeah. No, to answer your question, when someone says, do you want to do chippy work, I'm just like, do one.
No, forget it. I don't do chippy. Fair enough, mate. How long did you work for him or with him, or was he sorry to see you go?
He actually moved to America.
Oh, fair enough.
Yeah, it was gutted.
He didn't want to commute.
Maybe 5-6 years, something like that. Just like I never left. He was, Louis worked for him as well.
Yeah. Did you meet Louis through working for him then?
Yeah, so that's how we met, and then he was. It was really quite funny actually. So he told us, he gave us about a year to 2 years notice that they were moving to, because his wife was American.
Yeah.
And he gave us about 2 years notice that they were going to buy a house out there.
Oh, fair enough.
So I think, so about maybe 5 months before he left, Louis actually left and actually went window fitting for about a year because a relative of his was working for a company. So he left so he wasn't plastering for about a year. And then,
did you keep in contact with him during that time then? Or?
Yeah, absolutely. And he helped us out every so often, not too often.
Yeah.
And then, so we had a WhatsApp chat, and we still actually have it now. Occasionally we do talk to each other, usually slagging each other off and saying terrible things to each other. That's usually what happens.
Yeah.
International banter, as it were. And then, and then I'd already, like quite a long time before, had already set up a plastering company, disbanded any chippy work I was doing. And then it just like, so what used to happen is I used to bring in work to my old boss's company. So then it just started, I started doing stuff away from him. And then the bigger jobs would just come back.
Gotcha.
And then by the time he left, I was pretty much doing nothing. And then we ended up about, maybe 3-4 months after he left, maybe a bit longer than that. I just had a load of work come in. It was like something like 6 or 7 flats and 2 or 3 houses, and it was all converging, all in a period of about 2 months. And I just said to Louis, like,
frightening the hell out of me, mate.
I just said to Louis, do you want to bum that job off and come work for me? And it's been like that now for crumbs, quite a few years now. Maybe 5 years, something like that. So
that's
Louis like a
Go on, mate.
Louis like a bad smell you can't get rid of.
But he's a hard worker, mate. I'm sure otherwise you wouldn't still. He pulls his weight.
He does. To be fair, Louis is he's very, very good. To this day, I have never seen another plasterer that drops as little as he does.
Right.
It's unbelievable. In fact, we put a post on Instagram a few months back of Louis plastering in a shower cubicle. It's funny enough, it's actually my most liked post ever on Instagram. Right. And the amount of comments where people are like, what, no sheets? Oh, nice to see you not putting any sheets down. And why have you not put sheets down? And blah, blah, blah. And and it's just because Louis is so good at not dropping anything. It is unbelievable. He's not very quick, to be honest with you. And his finish it leaves a lot to be desired.
It'll come with time, very often, or not?
He's been doing it about 8-9 years.
Oh, okay.
So
I'll take that back.
Well, the problem with Louis, and he probably won't mind me saying this, Louis has ADHD.
Oh, okay.
And he can do one thing perfectly one day, and there's just the next. He just messes it up, and it's very limiting. Like, I remember having a little joke about it with Stuart a while ago. But because of that, sometimes it's just his concentration isn't there.
No, fair enough.
And
fair enough.
but his ability to not drop plaster
Is amazing.
I would put any plasterer up against him, and I would genuinely. I would be astonished if anyone was cleaner than he was. It's ridiculous. He was even cleaner than the person who taught him.
I mean, when you're...
And do you know what's funny, Louis?
No, it's good, but...
What was funny...
Go on, mate, go on.
I was going to say, when I used to ask Louis, I was like, were you always like that at college or something? He was just like, nah. He was like, when I first started with Wayne, he was a whole boss. He was like... I was wearing most of it. It's just he wasn't plastering the walls; he was plastering the floor
and
everything. And again, Wayne just ripped him to shreds. And he can't finish particularly well, but like I say, that is his ability to keep it off the floor is unbelievable.
I mean, on a lot of jobs, it's good to. I mean, there's two of you. It's the how much gear you can actually lay on when it's not just one.
Yeah,
because I've been a one-man band for so long now, but I remember when I have worked with small gangs or with another guy, you could kind of, I normally think on my own, I'll whack the ceiling up, whereas like with another guy, it's, we'll whack the ceiling up, we'll get the walls on as well, and even if the other guy's not particularly good at finishing, it's getting it on there and getting it to that stage where you can think, well, actually, it's in a position where I could trail over all this anyway, on my own if needs be.
And to be honest, that's actually one of the reasons why I actually started doing plastering. I often joke to the homeowners that I do plastering because it's a legal means of robbing people blind. Because I joke to them about it, but it pays such good money. It's ridiculous, and it's not because we're ripping them off.
No,
but because Louis and I together are domestically, I think we're very, very fast. I mean, don't get me wrong, you get these plasterers that say they can do 550,000 meters in a day, and they're gone by turn. And I have no idea how plasterers are doing that, to be honest with you. But I know if the meters ahead of us, between the two of us, we can do about 120 meters a day.
Yeah.
Down south, what would be considered a very bad meter rate is £5 a meter.
Right.
We probably average about $7.50 a metre, and if it's really good, it'd be around about $8.50 a metre.
So you're working out even your domestics on meterage then, rather than...
No, because generally the price would actually be higher.
Yeah.
I think usually an average size room, let's say a 3x4, if it was just a reskin, is usually between, I don't know, 450 and 600 quid.
Yeah, sounds right.
For a room.
Sounds right.
Yeah, it's something around there.
Yeah, no, fair enough, mate.
But because we can hit such big meters, like you say, Louis doesn't have to finish, so Louis can get it all on, and then I end up just finishing it.
It makes a massive difference, mate, for what you can get on.
And it just, we did, so we were just plastering a school the other day up in Lancaster.
I remember you telling me about going up there,
Yeah, so that was 300 meters, and we had to board it as well. Right. So we plasterboarded it, and then the outside walls were 50mm insulated backed plasterboard. So that all had to be cut with a skill saw.
Yeah,
all that was fixed and then plastered in 3 days. That just would not be possible to do that without Louis.
Nah, fair enough. That's a lot.
So he
of work.
doesn't have to be he doesn't have to be able to put it on. But if, let's say for instance, I'm putting 2 bags on. Yeah. On a first coat, and Louis putting 2 bags on a first coat. And then we're laying down, we say 3 bags or 2.5, 3 bags. And then we do that twice a day. You're looking at between 12 and 13 bags in a day.
Wow, yeah, that's a lot of coverage, mate.
It's a lot. It's hard work.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I should hope so.
When you're doing the schools, it absolutely kills. Your wrist, your elbow, your shoulders, it's awful.
Yeah, because that's it's a large amount to be whacking on, mate. I mean, because most guys, particularly guys that work on their own, do a couple of sets in a day generally. Unless they want to kill themselves, which some of the guys do. But a lot of the guys that put on massive amounts of meterage, I mean, there's guys that say they do that don't, and they just... Yeah, but there's guys that do that, but that generally tends to be on sites like when I used to work on sites, like working in a great big hotel, and there's a corridor and it's hundreds of feet long, and there's one on every floor, and the guys are right. Today we're going to take this corridor out, and because it's just long, straight, and flat, you can whack tons of skim on it.
Yeah,
you can cover loads of meterage, but not in a domestic that's got awkward little twiddly bits on it and funny alcoves or what have you, or there's a curve in one part of the room and the rest of the room is square, and you kind of think, yes, this is a different kettle of fish, but
I mean, with the schools, we're really lucky. It is literally like a plasterer's dream. So you're boarding up to 3.3 meters, but you're plastering up to 2.7.
Yeah.
So there's no cutting in, nothing. It's like 2.7 meters, and like the walls they go on for days.
Yeah.
So it's so easy. The sheets of board are 2.7 high. It's such a task.
Yeah.
But domestically, so what let's say, for instance, we're plastering House of Artex ceilings. Usually what we try and do is tackle 2 ceilings each per set. So we'll try and hit 4 ceilings in one go and then do another 4.
Yeah.
Obviously, so we'll be doing 8 ceilings a day. Usually we can get out of the house within about 2 days.
Yeah.
With regards to rooms, average size room, we'll try and just plaster the entire room in one go. Like, for instance, today, Louis, it's actually why Louis not here. Louis, he hurt his back on Friday. I think the doctors think he's got a trapped nerve in his back or something.
Right, okay.
So he wasn't in today. So the job, there was enough money on it just to come in and do the prep work. So I just boarded the ceiling, bonded out the chases and what have you. But tomorrow, the aim of the game, so it's about 4.5 meters by 3. Right. The game will be to smash that out in one day.
Yeah.
So usually it will be do the lid and a wall and the reveals, and then do the 3 other walls. They're pretty standard stuff.
Yeah.
So domestically, I appreciate it's so relative to where you live, but in Eastbourne, between, I think I said to you, 450 to 550 to 600 quid. It's pretty average, depending on how much work it is. It's fairly average. And if you're boarding it, you're going to add another 200 quid on top of it for the ceiling.
Oh yeah.
So it's but if you're going in there, don't get me wrong. Obviously, we're not going to divulge figures, but Louis isn't on full plastering rates for obvious reasons. He doesn't drive, and he can't finish. So use your imagination. But generally, you should be able to walk away with between 450 and 500 pound a day, sort of thing. So it's. That's usually how we work it, to be honest.
No, it's good money. But say between the two of you, if you can cover the area, mate, then fairly reasonably, then it's all good stuff. I was just going to have a quick nosy at what people are putting up on screen here.
I'm just seeing if anyone's swearing at us yet.
I don't think so. I don't like swearing on my channel. I won't have none of that. Chasing M2 is no good for anybody for a lot of reasons. Drive the price down. Always someone who will charge less to get the job than work like a dog to get it done. Yeah, true.
A Rendovate that said that. The only thing I would say, Rendovate, is
Joel, isn't it? Joel Cook.
Yeah, Joel. So I don't know if you heard it before. So the absolute lowest price we get in Eastbourne is £5 a metre. Right. But even then, that is so rare. Usually we're hitting around £7.50 a metre. This is labour only.
Right.
And then, let's say, if it's a decent job, it's £8.50 a metre. Pretty much in most places across the UK. I don't know about London, but most places across the UK, I think most plasterers will be happy with between £7.50 and £8.50 a metre. That's not massively driving the price down. Usually we set the price, so we will tell them what we'll do it for. Yeah. And then what we then do is we absolutely cream the meterage to earn a killing off it. That's usually how we do it. We're not trying to squeeze the price.
Are you doing more? Could you do outsides and insides? You do because you quite split your company into sort of like outdoor and indoor, or do you just kind of do you do more indoor than outdoor basically?
No, so it's pretty 50-50. So as a company, we choose not to. Excuse me. We choose not to render outside of the months of March, end of March through to October.
Rubbish, basically.
So that's basically the only time we render. I appreciate there's some renderers that render all year round. We don't do that. The other thing we have to be very careful of. So last year we rendered a lot. Last year, I forget how many. I think it was about 70 tons of sand. I think might have been a bit more than that. It was a lot. And
I hate rendering.
Despite Louis' appearance, he is not a well man.
Right.
He at a pretty young age. Again, he won't mind me saying this because he usually tells every customer known to man, so he gets sympathy votes. He had a very serious heart operation when he was 15.
Wow. Yeah.
And I think he had one of his valves replaced at 15. So he has to be very, very careful with how much he does. And rendering is terrible for him.
With
like,
sand
it's
cement, it's a lot heavier, isn't it, than the silicone stuff?
It is, yeah. To give you an idea, I think it was middle of last year, he went into hospital with a resting heart rate of 189 beats a minute.
Bloody hell.
Yeah, that'll kill you. That'll kill you.
Yeah, that's crazy.
A week of that and you'll be dead.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest, there was a point where I wasn't sure he was going to make it. It was pretty serious. So as a company owner, I have to take into consideration how much we do outside because it is so damaging for Louis. Specifically hacking off, for some reason, hacking off render is just terrible for him. So we don't do that personally.
No.
Or we do very little of it now, should I say. Yeah. But this year, to be honest with you, I'll probably be very picky with the rendering jobs we did because we did so much last year, and they were whole houses and they were detached houses, and it was just months and months of rendering one after the other. And you know what? The only thing you can guarantee with British weather is that it's not guaranteed. Right. It's so unreliable, and it screws you over. You know, so on our terms and conditions, we say that we reserve the right not to turn up if there's not a guarantee of 3 dry days in a row, or if the temperature isn't above 7 degrees 3 days in a row. So
I mean, I stopped rendering outside purely from the viewpoint, apart from the fact I'm quite comfortable doing domestics just indoors. The chances of getting rained off on jobs, or for me, where if I booked an outside job that's going to take a week, and that week it's pouring with rain for the whole week, technically, unless I've made some kind of arrangement, I'm kind of stuffed because I'm thinking, well, you know, I can't do it. The customer, you know, and what can you do short notice? And
so
unless you've got a really good plan.
So what we do is we stack jobs. So especially so I don't know about everybody else, all the other classes that are listening in, but quite often, as soon as March, April time turns up, everybody's phoning for rendering. And like last year, by the end of April, we were booked up to October. Like, it was literally like that. Within a month, it was 6-7 months of rendering. So what we then do is we will then have people come in. They'll ring us and say, look, can you do X, Y, and Z? And what we basically say is, the next wet day, we will come in and do your job. And we have a list of people we're working towards. And then usually if the job's massive, what we basically say is if we have not done this job within 6 weeks, we will come off the rendering job to come and do it for you.
Right, okay.
So we just stack them, and maybe we have 15 or 20 smaller plastering jobs that are only maybe 1 or 2 days.
Right.
And like I say, because most of our work is domestic, you know, when rooms only take a day, you know, it's so rare that we're in a job for more than 2 days. Usually the only thing we'll be in a job in a domestic job for more than 1 day is a hull stairs and landing. Yeah, fair dues. Of which usually what I do is think of a number and add about 3 or 4 zeros so we don't get it, because we all hate hull stairs and landings.
I don't mind them as long as they haven't got a stair winder that's coming down, especially if it's a new one and you've got to mesh it and sort all that out. I absolutely hate it with a vengeance. But it can be quite good money. But mate, how did all this? I mean, I'm pretty sure you were quite a busy boy before the old YouTube thing. What inspired you to kick off a channel?
to do the channel. Can I just? Do you mind if I just answer the Trail Talk question? It's just come up.
Yeah, who's that from?
It's
from Stuart. Is that?
I'm guessing it's
it must be
Stewie.
Stu.
You and Louis sound like a pair of Vikings. Do you think the amount you're putting on is sustainable long term, with a lot of meterage, risk to injuries, etc.? If that is Stuart, that is a very valid. Yeah. Yeah,
because you could kill yourself now, by overdoing it.
It's not sustainable, to be totally honest with you. And I know you the discussion about injuries. I mean, I'll be honest with you. Like, plastering has been a bit of a break compared to carpentry work. Like, it's probably taken 3 years for my back to ease off from what it was. Let's say I was going every week to the osteopath.
Are you carrying granite worktops on your own or something?
So I used to carry. I don't know if anyone's ever heard of it. It's a composite worktop called Minerva.
Right.
It's very similar to Corian, except it's about 25 mil thick, solid. So it's like Corian but solid. I used to say to people, you don't lift it up, you sink into the ground. Oh, it's that heavy. And I used to carry 3 meter lengths of it. The weight.
No wonder you did your back in, mate.
I know. I'm not like Joel and that lot. They're like built like tanks. These are big boys. I'm not like that. So it was brutal. But so the plastering was a lot kinder. Right, okay. But you are right. Specifically, although I've only had one notable injury from plastering, I do suffer a bit with my wrist specifically. Right. And
I'm not surprised.
My last chiropractor, with smashing meterage, it's not surprising. No. My last chiropractor, he was like, you really need to start hitting the gym and working on your forearms, which is where the strength in your wrist will come. Yeah. And to be honest, that is something in the pipeline. But
you're going to have the time or the energy to go to the gym, mate.
It's the time at the moment, to be honest with you. So yeah, the only injury I have had, I completely by random tweaked my knee about 2 years ago, walking up the stairs. So it was just a dog-legged round, and something went in my knee. No idea what, and it took about 9 months for it to go.
Blimey.
No idea what happened. No. It was so bad I could barely bend my knees. So in the end, what happened was Louis did the bottoms, I did the tops. I just couldn't bend over or bend my knee. No idea. I was just walking upstairs carrying a bag, and I think I just slightly twisted on my knee, and that was it.
Yeah, anything like that can go, whether it's the back, knees, and you can think what happened there. You weren't doing anything particularly strenuous at the time. Yeah,
but generally, I think if you're plastering like how the old guard do it, if you're doing everything off a steel trowel, you're not using things like spats and what have you. I don't generally use a flexible trowel, to be honest with you.
What, at the end or at all? Or?
I might pass on a plastic, but the reality is that the trowel that I have, I was saying this to Louis the other day, if all the plasters, the one particular one that I've had for a long time, of all the plasterers I have ever worked alongside, I have never seen a trowel that is better than the one that I've got. It is unbelievable. It is like silk. And it's like, why would I, as much as, to be honest, probably the best flexible trowel I've then seen after that is that Rafina Superflex 3, which is toilet out of the box. It's so bad. Right. But when it comes in, it really is brilliant. It's a bit heavy, which is annoying, but it is a banging trowel. But the carbon is better. It's so sharp. It's just unbelievable.
But they wear in so well, generally, because my ones, they used to rust, and when I clean the rust off, obviously you're sharpening that edge. And mine was like a razor blade. I mean, the one I've got now is stainless steel. But the carbon one you did get a much nicer edge on it than I think you could ever get on a stainless steel one.
But I've got a fully broken in Marshalltown stainless steel one, and it's just
not the same.
It doesn't come anywhere near. It's nowhere near. Which is why actually on our channel we always push the carbon, because it's like, do you know what the reality is? I mean, to be fair, we only ever push it to professional plasterers. If you're a DIY, it's pointless. Yeah. Because obviously, if you leave it in the shed for 6 months to a year, it's going to be knackered. Yeah, it looks terrible. Yeah. But it's just so that's what we're saying. So, like, going back to what Stuart said, as long as you are using things like spatulas, speed skins. We use the Rafina plastic one, to be honest, as you know. As long as you're using something like that, at very least an 800, to be honest with you. A meter, a 1200 stretching it, if I'm honest with you. It's so difficult to get even pressure on a 1200, but between an 800, I mean, when we're smashing meters, I do have a 1500, which is huge, and we only really use it for sharpening corners, to be honest.
Right, yeah, because I wouldn't think you'd use that too often otherwise.
Yeah.
Not that length.
Not really, just to neaten up, neaten edges. It's a ball ache to use.
Yeah.
But if you're, like Luke, one of the lads who works for me, he... for a long time, he just did everything off a trowel, and don't get me wrong, he's very, very good. But it's like, well, why are you straining yourself?
Yeah.
Trying to flatten this in, like it's just more wear.
Yeah.
The reality is, what we usually recommend if you're really trying to be kind to your body is actually to spat it twice. So do your initial flatten and give it 15, 20 minutes, and then do it again.
Yeah.
And then you can pretty much leave that for ages and hit it with a first wet trowel. Just do 2 wet trowels. So, that will be a lot kinder. And if you really are struggling, if you've got, you're a bit older, skip to the flexible trowel and stay off of steel, because the steel's terrible for your wrist. In reality, the flexible is a bit more kinder, but you just won't get such a good finish. But if you're using these modern techniques, it's just not as cumbersome on your body.
You're using a lot less joint pressure, and just the amount of times you would go over when you're doing it. Because I was traditional. I've only been using any kind of spatulas in the last 2 years. And prior to for the other 35 years of my spreading career, everything was off of Marshalltown. You get your first coat on, you get your second coat on, and you flatten with that. And then when it got to where you wanted it to be, you might go over it a couple more times, and then you use your wet trowel, and that would finish it. And the sealing that I was doing today, I finished it with my Marshalltown, because sometimes it's only got if you take a flexi trowel over something that's still a little bit too wet, it's going to undulate slightly. Whereas your Marshalltown without any with normal Marshalltown flexibility, as I'd call it, it just does a nicer job. So although I've been using a flexible trowel to kind of finish off on a lot of my jobs, I'm starting to ponder whether I might just finish on my Marshalltown now. But I'll keep everyone posted on that one and see how it goes.
I mean, generally, we do a final pass on a plastic. For me, for the most of the time, it's about the only time we tend to change the trowel. The only time we do tend to flick over to a flexible trowel is if there was some kind of issue with the set. Like, for instance, a lot of people are complaining about the bags of plaster.
A lot of people are moaning about multi-finish. Personally, I haven't found any major issues with it, but a lot of guys do seem to keep saying it seems greasy, it seems to be just not the same.
Yeah. Do you know what it's like? Which is really funny, because I'll be honest, we spotted it months ago. It was like, what the hell's going on here? Do you remember that absolutely terrible product, Make Good, that
mate.
came out? It was absolutely.
I've still got some in the garage. I bought some and I never used it during that bit of time where you couldn't get anything except that, and then eventually, my B&Q were giving it away. It was like, this is free, and it still wouldn't go.
It was rubbish. Just out of curiosity, anyone that is listening in, I'd love to know if you used it, because we used it. It was not brilliant. It was awful. But I don't know about for those that are listening in, it was literally like they'd mixed Make Good and Multi-Finish together. So you mix them up. It was so bad. And do you know what really hacked me off about that is that there was a few like almost undercover plasterers that were saying it was amazing and this, that, and the other.
I watched a couple of vids with that in mind, these guys going, oh, it's great. And even watching them, I'm thinking, it looks like shite, the stuff. And what they were doing with it. And I'm thinking, and they're going, oh, this is lovely. And I'm thinking, it don't look like it's lovely.
No.
And I never used it. I just literally still got some rock hard bags of it in my garage.
It's absolute rubbish, and it really made me cross that they were doing that, because it's like, this is literally people's livelihoods. You are providing a terrible product, telling them to use it, and they're literally wrecking it. But it's literally like this multi-finish is being mixed in with this Make Good. But anyway, so occasionally, going back to the reason why we use the flexible trousers, every so often, if we get a set which for whatever reason is not behaving as it should, we will actually change the trowel to see if it improves it. And very often a flexible trowel is more forgiving. Generally. So we might bounce over it.
Yeah, and if something's picking up a little bit, if something's a touch too dry, but it needs a bit of an extra trowel, that's when the flexi will go over it and still get quite a nice finish off it. Whereas if you take an unflexible steel one over it, I'm not so sure about plastic, and it doesn't quite do it.
Yeah,
but
it just rips it up a little bit, doesn't it? It especially if you get a little bit of a breeze on.
Yeah.
I want to think the absolute terrible is Veluxes, because quite often you've got to open the Velux window to do the top reveal. Yeah. It was off like a rocket.
Getting back to your channel, mate.
But anyway, we digress. I hope that answered your question.
I hope so.
And the other final thing, we jabbered on about it for long enough. Yeah, the channel.
Why did you start the channel? Because you had nothing else to do.
I had nothing else to do.
I'm going to stop and prop a camera up in the corner now.
Yeah, I like the look of my ugly face, so I just want to stare at it all day. No, I'm joking. No, the reason why I started the channel, and this is going to sound terrible, and I'll probably get flogged for this afterwards. Definitely. There are so many videos on YouTube about plastering that are not helpful to someone who hasn't got a clue. The reality is, the way I see it is that in reality, you're making maybe 3 or 4 types of video. Yeah. So the first one is that you are making a video for a DIYer, maybe someone who wants to have a bash themselves, someone who can't afford plastering. You remember, at the end of the day, Alex Morley plastering robs people blind. No, you're
going to put that on a T-shirt.
Yeah, I'm a robbing scumbag. No, one of the videos you're making is you are trying to make something so simple for somebody that they have the confidence to have a bash. Because at the end of the day, a lot of people just need a bit of confidence to have a crack at it. But you have to make it so simple. And there are some plasterers out there that they think that they are, as a general, unfortunately, this trade does attract some very arrogant individuals.
Don't mention no names, mate.
No, I won't mention any names. But, I remember Luke said to me the other day that, what did he say? He said, we really are I forget it was, but that was it. We really are the elite of the trades, aren't we? That was
as in plasterers in general.
Yeah, as in it's like this black art that we transform rooms, that we truly are incredible, and blah 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 blah. Is this? Don't get me wrong. Luke is not an arrogant individual in any way, but he was just proud of his work and the transformation. He was just like, do you know what? We're not just the average Joe Blow.
It is an art form, mate. It is an art form.
Yeah, it is. And there are other trades that don't have a great reputation, to be fair. And plasterers they do. But, I remember one guy said to me, why are you putting all these videos up? You're literally taking work away from yourself and this, that, and the other. And I always say to people, plastering is the one trade everyone thinks they can do until they have a go. And it isn't that easy. So one section of the videos you do are to try and make it so simple for someone that doesn't know what they're doing. The other part of your videos are for professionals where you're showing them maybe a slightly different technique, or you're giving them a real breakdown process, or maybe you've got someone who is so new at plastering that maybe they're at college, they are learning the proper process, and maybe they want a bit more material. So, one of our how to plaster a room or a wall, whatever it was, it's like 50 minutes long. But the reality is to go through every facet of plastering a video. I don't know how long the timing video is, but it is pretty darn long. It's by far our most watched video. But it has to be so detailed for someone who knows what they're doing, but they're looking to try to find a reason why they're struggling with something. It's got to be detailed.
I've seen I've seen
So-
detailed videos that people have put up, and they put on the title, "This is a detailed video," for the excuse that that's why it's an hour long or whatever, or possibly longer in some cases.
Absolutely.
And I've obviously not watched the whole one all the way through from start to finish, but when I have looked at those, their view rate has not been good at all, because
but you're not making them for yourself to watch. It's not being made for you. It's not being made for casual watching while you're.
No, what I'm getting at is that you would think more people that need the details, because they are learning. They don't want to see it in time lapse. They don't want to see you just doing a room without any kind of explanation as to what you're doing, and just watch you, because it's easy to watch someone and think, oh, that looks, as you say, that looks easy, until they actually get some gear on a hawk and try not to drop it all over the floor. But these guys' videos, they've done them in detail, but not getting traction.
No, absolutely, and generally, I think the more popular videos tend to be around between 6 and 12 minutes long, usually. But the reality is that to provide decent information, sometimes that takes longer.
You can't do that.
But
more
you
in
do
6 to 10 minutes.
Yeah, I had one guy. So those videos, I actually trimmed out so many. So one of those long videos, I trimmed them out so they were much shorter. But I had one guy come up to message me and said, "I've watched this video about 4 times, the longer one," and he's just like, he's almost like taking notes. And that's why you do the video, not for thousands and thousands of views. It's for the one person that genuinely needs it.
Yeah, well, that's the initial idea. Especially if you're doing them from a teaching perspective or teaching type video, as opposed to, I'm a plasterer and I'm just putting videos out there for the sake of putting videos out there, which again a lot of guys do.
So then the other type of video that you do, or we think you do, is when you're then providing a video on a technique which is out there. Like, for instance, and again, these videos are probably the videos you get the most amount of abuse for. So the obvious ones being putting bonding or hard wall in the plaster to give it volume. You get absolutely battered for that. One coat plastering, obviously. Putting mesh in the plaster, you get thumped for that. And then obviously everybody's favourite, sponge coating. So
I need one to bring that up.
But the reality is, all of those techniques that we've just mentioned, they are, if you use them properly, they are techniques out there that people are using them, and it is appropriate to show someone how to do it properly. Now, we always try in our videos to say what the pros and the cons are for them, but it is necessary to say, do you know what? There is this technique. This is how it works. This is when you use it. This is when you don't use it. I had one guy, when we did the mesh video, he wrote like a Genesis to Revelation comment saying about how he'd been plastering for 30 years and going into all this scientific fact about multi-finish.
I think I might have even seen his comment, mate.
I just thought to myself, my first thought was, cool story, bro. And I just love it when someone starts going on about how long they've been plastering. I'm just like, you've missed the point of the video, me old son.
Well, that's the point.
And it's
the point I tend to make when I it's normally when I'm doing live stuff and I'm giving people advice or telling them what I do. Like I use neat PVA for practically everything. But the grits, mate, I'm not interested in them. But that does not mean that I am right. That does not mean that you mustn't use grit because Eric says he uses neat PVA. When I talk to people, I say, look, if something works for you, because I've got abuse about using neat PVA or not leaving it tacky or letting it dry or using my because I was taught to do the some people call it nitro mix. I just called it the way I was taught, where I knock up a big batch of gear. I put my first coat on, and then I'll water down what I've got left, and then I'll use that for the second tight coat over the top. That's the way I was taught. That's why I've done it for years. It's always worked well. And although other guys, and a lot of other guys, will do they do one coat, let that go a fair amount, and then mix up a fresh one for the second coat. which is something I've never done in all the time I've been doing it. But that doesn't mean that my way of doing it is the right way. And anything I ever say to people, I make a point that it's a suggestion, but I'm not telling you you're doing it wrong because you're not doing it my way. But a lot of guys, and like you say, some of them, especially the ones that have been doing it for a lot more years, they're so quick to come on and go, oh, speed skim's a load of rubbish. Don't watch people's YouTube videos because you can't learn to plaster by watching a video. You know, and you think, well, chill out, mate. What's your beef? Why don't you go and watch something on the telly? Don't watch the video. It's like with trolls and trolling. Some guys do it just for the fun for them. They enjoy slagging people off for, even if they're not even plasterers, got nothing to do with plastering. They'll come onto something like this and start slating us off for all sorts of things. But you got to roll with it and generally ignore it. But
I even had you may have seen it. I even had someone who made a YouTube video about me.
No,
brilliant.
I don't think I've seen that one.
I felt like a celebrity. I was just like, someone's taking the time to make a video.
If they're going to mimic you, mate, you're making it.
No, I was getting slated. It wasn't a good video. I was getting battered, but I felt like a hero. It was very funny. But I always think though, with decent plastering, I was just thinking about the techniques that you were just saying. The reality is, I don't know if you must have gone into a job sometime and you just think, do you know what, that technique might not work. You know, like let's say for instance, you know, you're going over hardwall or something. It was the day after. You know, you're not going to be able to whack it on the wall, leave it to go right off, and mix up a fresh batch. If that just ain't going to happen, that's going to pull your pants down. You know, you are literally going to have to knock up extra, put it on, and then it will pull in rapid and use the same gear to go over the top of it. You know, there are times where you might choose, you know, like for instance, maybe you're doing a conservatory in the summer and it's baking art. You know, you're not going to have time to mix up separate batches. It is going to be going quick. Whereas, for instance, for me, if I want to smash massive meterage and I'm putting on more than 6 bags in a set, you know, I'm going to be knocking up the, 4 bags on the first coat, cleaning the bucket out, and then doing the extra 2.5 bags on the laydown. I want fresh gear. I want that 40 minutes to be able to bash it all on, you know. But there are other times where I want to be gone quick, so I'll change the technique, you know. And I just think there is that element of you go into a room, you just think, actually, do you know what, that technique's not going to work, or I've got a better technique. To make sure, because at the end of the day, we all want to go home. We want to go home to our family.
Well, I find that's my plan, Mike. But a lot of guys seem to just love being at work.
Yeah. You want to get out of the door as fast as you can. I mean, I don't know how people are leaving at 1 o'clock in the afternoon and doing 2 sets. Like, their work must be rough. I can't do it. Like, there is one plasterer I've seen on YouTube. I don't even know if he still does anymore. There was a guy called Magpie Plastering, I think. He's the only person I've ever heard say that a set should take about 4 hours. And the truth of it is, from mixing up to doing your final dry pass, it really is about 4 hours. You can speed it up a bit.
By I know what you're saying.
Using a bit of dirty water, leaving it to pull in for ages. But the truth of it is, an average set, if you're cleaning the bucket out, is around 4 hours. You know, it's usually between 8 and 9 o'clock in the morning until 1, and then 1 o'clock till 4.
Right.
You know, like, how people are getting it to go off like a rocket, you know. And it's the only guy that I've ever seen who's ever mentioned that, you know, in reality, it is around about that time. You know, you can maybe squeeze it to 3.5, and if you're on board, you might get it a bit shorter. But to do it properly and you're not going on so tight that you're basically doing a skimming coat over the top, it baffles me. But
I found most of my sets are about 3.5 hours, and if I'm doing a small amount of wall, I'll use an additive to either speed something up, or if I'm feeling lazy or it's a large area because I'm working on my own, I will put a retarder in it, not so I can bash it out, bash more out. I put a retarder in it because I want to take it easy. That might just be an age thing, mate, for me. And I literally say that I'd normally knock up a couple of bags on my own, and that's the kind of biggest set I will do. by myself because I don't want to push it past that. If I had someone else knocking up my gear, then I would put more on, maybe do some kind of rolling set or what have you. But I just find it's I could do that, and I didn't need to put anything in. I didn't need to slow it down or speed stuff up. But since I've started using some on bigger jobs, then when I've got to a point where I'm doing an area, and I think to myself, you know what, I'm going to stick some retarder in it because I want to work a bit more slowly, and for no other reason than that. And obviously, I like the stuff that speeds something up. If I'm doing a small patch of bonding. I've used dirty water before, but it's the point of having some dirty water when you want it. If you go straight onto a new job and you've not mixed anything up yet, and you've got a little patch of bonding to do, unless you carry around a 5 litre thing of dirty water, and even dirty water can be kind of like, sometimes it goes off really like a rocket, other times it still doesn't go off any quicker. And
100%. I had that the other day. That exact thing happened to me the other day. I bought dirty water to do a patching job. It was literally like this big, and it was like 2 hours. And I literally just used dirty water. The problem with dirty water is it's so inconsistent.
Exactly.
It really
That's
is.
the only reason I will use a additive of one sort or another. Though I'll use Easy Mix, obviously, because. Especially if I want a bit of bonding to go off quickly, because I'm literally doing a little patch, and then I need to skim this wall, and I want to get on with skimming it, and I'll whack a bit of that in. Actually, if you're not doing it a whole sachet to a whole mix, then it's really touch and go as to whether you're overdoing it for a small amount. You know, before you get it out of the bucket, it could go on you. But it's nice to be able to put just enough in there, fill in that hole, nice and quick. 2 minutes later, you think, okay, I can get on with the skimming. And
I must admit, with bonding and hardware, we always use cement. To be honest, it's so easy to gauge cement, and so we always add cement. So there is a really simple technique. So the cement starts to change a very pale grey. It'll start to like show grey in the mix as you're adding it. As soon as that goes, you've got enough. If it starts predominantly going grey, that'll go within probably 2 minutes. If that, you won't even get it out of the bucket. In fact, I remember it was really funny. Louis reminded me of it the other day, where he'd mixed up this hardball in the cement and like he was carrying it in, and I saw the colour of it, and I kid you not, it was grey as grey. You know, it was like, it was ridiculous. And I was like, literally, mate, that is going to be dead in the bucket in no time. And he's like, nah, it'll be fine. And he hadn't noticed in the time that it had taken him to walk it from inside to outside, put it in the kitchen, it was rock hard in the bucket. Where he put too much in. It was so
It's
funny.
easy to do.
It was like, dude. But as it starts to change colour, so it just gradually starts to change. As soon as you get that bit of grey in it, that's enough. You're good to go. Obviously, it's totally different. If your bonding you're using is grey, that's from the mine that's got the grey stuff, then you're buggered. But if it's the brown stuff, it's absolutely fine. I've just noticed another question from Trout.
Well, the Alex has a talent for video presentation and is also excellent at explaining the process, etc. Have you always been good behind the camera, or is something you've had to learn? Before you answer that question, Alex, I've always said since the first time I've seen Alex present, and you must remember this, that if you watch Top Gear, then you've got to remind you of a certain fella, the younger, better looking one of the three that that would do.
Do you mean the one that can't drive? Do you mean Hammond?
The one that can't drive very well.
Yeah.
I think even now, mate, you should still do a video about different types of plaster and call it Top Gear. I did mention that at the time. I gave that away to you as a freebie. You know.
Oh. Pun intended. The pun passed me by.
Obviously, and you do have a good presence behind the camera. It's something that I could see straight away, and I'm not blowing up your fundament, but I can do this kind of stuff. I'm comfortable with it, but I'm an old geezer doing a bit of YouTube stuff. You do have the potential, and I'll mention this now just in case it does come to pass, that as your channel grows and becomes more popular, that at some point I believe someone will offer you some kind of television work, mate, and you might go, "Oh, that'd be great," or you might go, "Oh shit, I don't want to do that." but you've got that, and if you've got that kind of presence on a camera, it is, sky's the limit, mate. So, but yeah, going back to, but do you want to answer it yourself, mate? Anyway, what do I know? I'm just a spectator. Did you have to learn it, or have you always been like chilled behind the lens, mate?
What a question. Do you know what I think? Truthfully, I have had an element of training over the years, to be honest with you. I don't massively want to go into it, to be perfectly honest with you, but I'm not accustomed to, so foreign to public speaking, shall we say that? So I have had a fair amount of training in that over the years. But what I will say, Stuart, is it's kind of different folks for different strokes, isn't it? You know, what is good? You know, I had someone on the plastering talk group. I got to think what he said. It was not Stuart's one, might I add. This was the plastering one.
Yeah,
you know,
I know the one you mean.
And he said, it was really funny because someone tagged me into it. It's hilarious. I forget. I don't know if the guy ever ends up watching this video, but I think he's called Carl, and he's bald with a fantastic beard. Okay, so if he ends up watching this video, you know, thanks, Carl. I thought it was funny, and it was some guy who said, "Is it just me, or is Alex Morley something like the most annoying knobhead and annoying dickhead going?" Something like that.
It's good to have a bit of yin and yang.
And I literally, it wasn't Carl that wrote this. He just tagged me to say, because he was defending. He was like, he's on this chat group, and then it was only when he put it out, and I literally replied to him and said, "I can confirm I am the most annoying knobhead on YouTube. I thought I was slipping down to second place, but thank you for confirming, and I've still got top title."
I love it.
And the reality is, to some people, you are the most irritating, patronising moron going, and to other people, they really like it.
I think that's life.
So, you know, for some people, I always think people like Anthony and Stuart, they've just got this calming presence. You can clearly tell that they are so long in the tooth, and they haven't. There's nothing they haven't seen. Yeah. That's just so obvious, isn't it? You know, like I love watching Anthony's videos on that, like, limelight stuff and what have you. Like, it seems like nobody covers that material, and yet Anthony does, and he's clearly got a lot of experience in that. Maybe it's because he's in Wales, I don't know. And I just think we all have different skill sets, to be honest. You know, good is so relative, isn't it? You know, does it help that I can enunciate well? Maybe.
It's probably like having singing lessons, mate. You can be an okay singer, you know, fairly mediocre, have proper lessons, and then become a very good singer. If the initial talent's got to be there underlined, you can't be completely rubbish, I don't think. And then I mean, good.
What I would say about it is that if you know what they say, if you love what you do, you won't work a day in your life. And
I'm still searching.
You know, you're still searching. Yeah, I love plastering. I really do. Even after all these years, every single day, I like critique my work. I try and improve it. Try and work out what didn't go quite right here. How can I do better? You know, every day, and it's just, you know, it's just part of who I am. And I love plastering. I could, you know, talk about plastering till the cows come home. You know,
that's good.
You know, everyone's like running away, and you're just like, let me tell you about the difference between first coat and second coat. You know, let me tell you a story. So it makes a difference. I mean, yes, having a bit of experience in public speaking obviously does help. But please, for those listening, don't take this as arrogant anyway. I'm not massively thick. Not saying that any YouTubers are in any way, so I just must make that very clear. I'm not saying that,
Right.
but I've got a quite high IQ, so it
You're a
makes
clever boy.
it it makes it very interesting understanding the specifics of a process.
Right. Okay.
If that's why I'm saying so. So when you then really break down the specifics of why you're doing something, how it works, what you're looking for, it makes it a bit easier to explain it to somebody in a simpler way. I always think to myself that really your end goal is to be able to explain it in a way that maybe a 9 or a 10-year-old won't understand. And it's not because you're being patronising to anyone watching, but if they don't understand what you're saying, the video is lost. And generally, and the other thing that was said to me a long time ago, and again, it's part of this public speaking, is that if a 9 or a 10-year-old didn't understand what you were saying, you do not understand your subject well enough. So if you truly understand what you're saying to such a degree, you should be able to break it down to such a simple way that any schmuck can watch it. And when you're providing content, it needs to be for everybody, I think, in my opinion. At least that's what we try and do on YouTube. Just to try and make it
on YouTube, it's always good to say, in my opinion, because that kind of covers everything. Then I do it.
And a lot of the time it is just your opinion, isn't it?
Well,
and
basically,
and you do. Yeah, I mean, for us, we do very much have a zero abuse policy on our channel. So usually, if an individual's getting fairly close to being disparaging, I might consider removing the comment. If it persists, I'd just block them. There is a particular YouTuber who constantly mentions about all these comments that he's written and I've never replied to this. That's because I ain't seen it.
Because you've made him invisible.
So I don't know what he's talking about. Yeah, so I never see these comments that are blocked. And I'm just like, the problem is, and I'm sure you've got the same with you, you see these comments, that you get sent notifications, they tell you you've got these comments, so you end up reading them. I don't want to read hateful comments. I'm doing my best here. I'm trying to provide good content. I'm trying to help people. At the end of the day, I'm sure it's the same. I spent hours trying to do these videos to help other people. I don't want someone to say spiteful things to me or disgusting things. I mean, I was talking on the phone with Anthony Parry a few months back, and I'm not going to say what was said, but he told me about one of the first comments he received on one of his first videos. It was disgusting. It was disgraceful what someone said to him. And some people are so disgusting. And I just think, people like that, they have no place on my channel. So it's similar to what Stuart's like with
well, that's what makes Trout Talk different from the others, mate. If you mess about, if you're lucky, you'll get a warning. But otherwise, it'll just take you straight off. Any kind of abuse that I might get, thankfully, it's been fairly minimal. But when I do get it, I used to just send back a love heart and nothing else, and then because if anything pisses off a trial, it's when you just like blow them a kiss. You know what I mean? No comment. You can't make a comment back because they're dragging you in to what they want. They want you to go, oh, flipping hell, mate, blah blah blah, so they can then reply. And I ain't got time for that. And I know it's like when you do. It's for anybody. If anyone ever even constructive criticism, whether it's to not necessarily just to a plasterer, but to anybody, is hard to take. Even if it's constructive. So when someone just comes out of the blue, who you don't know at all, you're trying your best to, like, as you say, put out videos or whatever it is that you do, and someone goes, oh, mate, you're just a big fat tosser. You stupid old git. And you kind of think, who are you? Do I give a shit? Not really. So I think I will be blocking you because I don't really want your comments coming up anymore, whether it's on the channel, whether it's on this thing. And the other good thing about this live stream is those. I haven't seen any tonight, which makes a change. Where they put up some kind of link that's meant to take you to some porno site or whatever it is, but the link doesn't. The funny little words show up, but the link doesn't. So it's not something that can be clicked on anyway. So they're just wasting their time when they do it, which I think they might have They might have noticed by now because they haven't had any this evening.
Yeah, a while ago I had a few of those come up on our videos, and I mean, it's something like bit dot
That's
something
it,
something
yeah,
something, and
yeah.
I ended up researching because I didn't know what it
No.
was, but I just it happened probably for the first 2 or 3 months of doing videos, and I just reported it. I just kept reporting them
Yeah.
and deleting the comment immediately. But yeah, but that is obviously the more unpleasant side of doing YouTube videos. The other reason as well is I know we went off on an absolute tangent, and hi everyone who's just logged in. You have no idea what we're talking about. The other reason for the YouTube videos as well, it sounds terrible. So you've obviously got this element of passive income, obviously. You've and the other thing as well is endorsements as well. We get sent a lot of free stuff.
Yeah. Well, that's a major part of the YouTube game for whatever trade or industry you're in. That people are doing YouTube, it's to be able to, people send you free stuff. Say, oh, can you promote the latest camera that's out if you're
of course. We're quite lucky in that. Like, I mean, so I must stress this very clearly. We are not affiliated with Rafina in any way whatsoever. We don't get paid by them, nothing. We're very lucky that they will let us test new products before they've come to market. A lot of the stuff that isn't there, we're not allowed to say what it is. We just have to test it out, let them know what we think, and that's the end of it. But even like I contacted Rafina, I was just like, I want to do a review on the Megamixer. If you got one, I can borrow. Yeah. And they were like, yeah, no problem. And they literally just sent me out a brand spanking new.
I think I see the picture.
Whatever it is. They sent it to me, and I was like, they just sent me some information I might find helpful, and they sent it to me ages ago. To be fair, I meant to get onto this video. I haven't put one up for probably 2 or 3 weeks because I had a few people message me saying, "When the hell's the next video come out?"
Mine come out now about once every 3 months.
Well, it's not that. It's not that I haven't wanted to do. Other than the fact that I have moved house recently, it's not that. It's just, for whatever reason, I've had job after job where there's been so much stuff in the room. You can't get a shot which looks any good, and then it just looks like Fred in the shed. Even tomorrow, the room we're in, they've literally put the fridge in the washing machine smack bang in the middle of the room. It's ridiculous. So we've just had this, haven't been able to take these videos, but one of them we wanted to do was this video on this mega mixer. I don't know if Rafina expect me to send this thing back. I don't know.
If they don't ask for it back and they kind of send it out with, oh, give this a try, it's generally, you can keep it, but just give it a try and preferably give it a mention that, that you think it's wonderful. And it's the same as mine, mate, and it is a wonderful mixer. It's got lots of talk and it's... To be honest with you, I mean, I don't think anyone... Like, in my opinion, you're looking at 2 mixers, aren't you? It's either the Mega Mixer or the DeWalt one. I remember a tree surgeon once said to me that when it comes to chainsaws, you've got Stihl and... I think the other one.
What the hell's the other one? I can't think what the other one is. It was really funny.
Famous one.
And he just... whatever. No, they are both well known. I've just had a bit of a brain fart. What it was. And he just goes, other companies need not apply. And he was just saying that. He's like, these are the 2 you're interested in. Let's not worry about all the others. I'll probably come to when we come offline what the other one was. But anyway, with the mixers, it's a Mega Mixer or it's a DeWalt one. So you're either want cordless or you don't. If you go cordless, it's the DeWalt one. There are other ones. You've got the Makita one. It doesn't have the same power, I'm afraid. And you've got the Mega Mixer one. But just the design of it, that will not last as long. Just the way that battery is held externally, that'll get battered in no time. That's it. Thank you, Jamie O'Sullivan. Is it Husqvarna or something like that?
I've got to see it up there. Yeah,
I think that's it. Husqvarna. Yeah, that's the other brand. So those Stihl and Husqvarna, those are 2 ones that are the main ones.
Someone asked me when your fin coat video is going to come out. Fin coat series on fin coat. I'm assuming they're talking about render.
I have no idea. I get asked a lot about rendering videos, and normally.
Well, apparently, there's some kind of fin coat that you video that you've promised, and they're looking forward to it because they really need it right now. And
I hate when people say I promised them. I'm pretty sure Joel is the one for Thin Coat Stuff.
well, Joel, I mean,
Joel
I
is
mean,
like,
I'm interviewing Joel in.
He is the best. He is the best one for rendering, I think.
Yeah,
I mean, he's got Rendervate in his
he's
name. I mean,
he's
say
the
no
guy
more.
that I plug if someone wants some rendering done. I go, look, get onto Joel Rendervate, and he'll sort you out.
Yeah.
There's some other guys that are on the forum. Kieran, he does a lot of rendering and stuff like that as well. But yeah, because the next interview's with Anthony, and the one after that's with Joel. So everyone can kind of like get back on whatever anybody else said and all that kind of stuff. Also, Alex, in the actual forum, all these questions are being recorded on my.
Cool.
So if there's any if you want to go through them, basically, just out of curiosity, if nothing else, to see if there's any that we missed or that you missed, you can see them on there.
Nice.
Well,
Nice. I have noticed Matt Buck. Hi, Matt. Matt follows me on my channel as well.
Bucky, yeah.
He said about when are those Rafina buckets coming out? I believe so. I asked Rafina about this. They are available on their website. I just don't think they've sent them out to the suppliers. But I don't think the price on from Rafina Direct is that bad.
How much
I don't
are
think. It's no idea. Never asked. I don't send them. But what I will say. I don't imagine those 15-litre ones are particularly cheap. They are so nice, though. They are like, I don't know if any of you guys have got the big Rafina tub, but they're like as sturdy as that. They are like proper solid buckets. And then we've got this, they sent us this absolutely massive, it was a 100-litre tub. It's for dab and board bonding and stuff like that. It's so good because it's such a big tub, but it's like, it's very similar flexibility to a flexible tub, but it's like it's also rigid. It's so strange, but they're brilliant buckets. I don't know what the point of the third handle is. I didn't say this to Rafina.
It's got a third handle on.
Well,
those buckets.
I have no idea why. It's just so
because if one snaps, you've got an extra. Not in the right position.
I don't know. It's just. I don't know why they did that. I think they were just trying to be clever. Yeah. But the bucket itself is really clever because it's more flexible than the mixing bucket, so it's a lot better. Especially if you get a gammy bag of dab, which happened to us the other day, and it went off in about three seconds.
Get it out a bit
we're
easier.
like, well, how are we going to get this out of the bucket then? And then she just tipped upside down and stamped on it, and it just came out so
You thought it didn't go through the bottom of the bucket?
You know when but you know when it's like it's drying so fast, it's crackling as it's drying. It was like that. It was really.
And the whole bag, presumably, that was.
Whole bag. Well, it's over a bag because we were mixing up 2 bags at a time, and it just it's like.
How'd you get rid of that?
It was very funny.
Did you have a skip on that job?
There was a skip on that job.
Without that, mate, if you got a solid lump of that stuff popped out of a bucket. Getting shot of it, it's not an easy task.
What you do is you leave it at the front of the garden and just like put a plant pot on it and be like, here's a nice pot.
Yeah, give it a coat of paint when it's dry, bit of a spray.
Yeah, like plaster in Paris. But anyway, so that's the reason for the YouTube channel, and it is really nice. It is so nice to, like for instance, Rafina, they really appreciate genuine comments.
Yeah.
They don't want. There is a particular worldwide company, should we say? There is a worldwide company who's very well known, who gets promoted all the time for their speed skims and stuff like that. You know the company I'm referring to, and I listen to the comments of some of these people reviewing them and think, I know you're lying because I've got one of those and it's a complete crock of SH1T. It's absolute rubbish. And I just like, and funny enough, Rafina actually was talking to me about it, and I did not know that they're affiliated with some kind of church or something in Australia, I think.
No idea.
They were telling me. Yeah, they were. And that there is a lot of pay for reviews, but they better be good reviews and that
Yeah.
sort of thing. And they really plug these tools, and they're actually,
You get that. You get that in business anyway, mate. When it comes to advertising and stuff, and the money involved. I know a girl in the fitness industry, and she was promoting Apple Watch, or no, promoting Fitbit, I think it was, and she was being paid to promote Fitbit. And but they noticed in a lot of the videos she was doing, she had quite a big following, that she had an Apple Watch on, and they went, "Oh yeah, like your Apple Watch," and she just lost whatever contact she had with them. But that was her. But she, at the time, she would plug it for the money, and I won't mention her name. She would plug it for the money, but then not wear it. So literally, I'm doing it for the dosh. But it's not my preferred watch. It's a bucket of shit. But I'm not going to say that. I'm going to say it's fantastic, and I'll wear it all the time.
Yeah, I think,
even though I don't.
Yeah, I think you have to say that, though. I mean, like, you do have to, and like, as you know, we did another review on another tool. We got battered for it. There. We won't go into it. We're not going to go into it, obviously. Yeah, the finer details.
No, yeah,
if anyone wants to see me getting slammed. But yeah, and you do have to come up, you do come up with these videos where you're basically saying about this. But obviously, I always feel that you should stipulate that you didn't pay for this; it was sent to you. But explaining to them, do you know what? Like in that particular case, this tool does work, but the reality is, longevity ain't going to work, or whatever, or there are other alternatives. I think it is only appropriate to say,
thanks, Tara Brian.
There are other alternatives. Did Tara say anything?
Hi, Eric and Alex. I'm new to plastering. I finished the course in November, but I've got to say, thanks to you both, I've learned a lot from watching both your content. It's much appreciated. They're the kind of comments we like.
I love it when you see a Sheila getting into the trade, a lady getting into the trade. It is brilliant.
I'm guessing it's a Sheila with a Tara.
Tara, and the picture looks like a lady, so I'm going to assume that is a lady.
I would say so.
There is a few on. Is there like plastering sisters, and then there's like Princess Plastering, and then there's some other Sheila.
There's a builder. What's she called herself? I mean, she's got quite a big building company, and she's a girl builder. I think it's something like that. It's a very simple name, but
I just see
amazing.
It's a brilliant thing. So Tara, it's a cracking trade. To be honest with you, it is brilliant, and I do know the reality is, I think women in the trade very often they do a better job than we do. Like, let's be honest, we're so flipping arrogant, man. It's terrible. And
when I was learning 37 years ago, there was a woman on my course as well, which was lovely because it just made a nice change from just the other guys that were there. Think, oh wow, it's a well, at the time I was very young. It's a girl here plastering as well, and it is great, and it's great to see that now, like with women's football and all that kind of stuff as well.
Absolutely, and I just think it must be so intimidating for a female getting into the trade. It must be. I'd imagine it's scary. And there's
she is a Sheila. Thanks, Tara.
Yeah, no, I saw that.
I've just seen it.
Yeah, there's also a young girl. I think I get the feeling she plasters with her dad. Again, I'm not very Instagram.
This is someone's daughter, isn't it? Can't think.
I saw that. There's one Durham
that sounds
as well.
Very
I saw
much
that one
like
on
it.
Facebook the other day. There was another one as well. She was a young girl. I can't think what she was called. They're good. Like, I don't know about you, but do you ever do this thing where you're proper examining someone's work?
Yeah.
I will say, hands down, without a doubt, for me, one of the best plasterers on Instagram. I doubt he's watching, or probably doesn't watch our YouTube channels. But there's a guy called Coventry Plastering, I think, like that. If you haven't seen his Instagram, I don't know him from Adam, but if you want to really pixel peep his work,
Coventry
it is probably some of the best I have ever seen. He is unbelievable. And I do that with, you look at some of the ladies that are in the trade, and you look at really focusing on their work, and the quality is perfect. It really is good.
Cool. Have you seen?
Sometimes I just think.
Have you seen what Tara's put there?
What about this as a trade name? Class Tara. Lol.
That's a
a
good
great
idea.
name, isn't it?
Get it out there.
The only thing only thing I'd say, Tara, is just maybe give it a lot of thought to your company name, because it's a real bummer if you have to change
And make sure they just don't think you can't spell properly.
Yeah. Maybe put one of those, not a hyphen. What's the dash one? The little.
I never know what that's called.
Yeah.
The dash that's up in the air or the dash that's down low?
Yeah, whatever it is. But yeah, anyway, love a good play on words.
Yeah, no, it's cool.
I just have Alex Morley plastering, so I remember who I am, because sometimes I wake up in the morning, I'm like, what?
I don't used to forget. I used to forget, mate. Well, it's to the point, isn't it? This is me. I'm a plasterer.
Yeah, well, you just want to like turn up and be like, they look at you like you're going to mug them, and just like, I'm the plasterer that you asked to turn up,
Mate.
So the name is on the shirt.
The time is drawing on, so I don't want to go on too long. Just from a going on too long point of view. Important question I need to ask you, mate. I've first asked the other guys: bacon sandwich, brown sauce, or tomato ketchup?
I have Louis' answer and mine.
Well, you're both vegans.
Because they are both the same.
Right.
It's actually both.
Well, not together on one sandwich.
Together.
No.
Ketchup and brown sauce.
That's barbecue sauce then, isn't it? Barbecue sauce.
Ketchup and brown sauce on them, mate.
Dear.
John Hodges, very quickly. Blue grit. I'm just seeing his comment there. For no other reason, John, I do think green grit's better. It's just not
green?
quite as available. No, it's just not quite as green grit isn't quite as available as blue grit where we are. So I don't generally go to big merchants like Travis. I think sell it in the UK. So I don't generally go there.
Yeah, sorry, mate.
So very often I'll go to like places like Tool Station and what have you. But the blue grit's very cheap, and then as we've discussed on the channel before, we tend to water it down. So like a tub of blue grit might last us maybe 3 or 4 weeks. It lasts ages. So, but I think green grit is better in my opinion.
Pole extension on the old
speed skim, or do you prefer flattening it by hand? No, pole all day long, definitely. Although, very amusingly, I snapped mine the other day, or I half blame Louis, to be honest. Although he wasn't there and he didn't do the action that broke it. So I don't know if anyone may notice. So the vehicle that we use, I use a Ford Ranger for my work vehicle. And in the back, there are these massive deep drawers. And he stacked it like a special person wanting to go home on a Friday, shall we say.
Right.
You know, the old
shove it in.
Friday. Yeah.
Shove it
so
in.
when I then come to open the drawer, it binds up and bang, and it's snapped, which is annoying. But 100% pole all day long. It really boiled down to like Stuart's question the other day about earlier about the injury thing. Anything that makes your life easier. You know, there are. Even on Trail Talk, to be totally honest with you, there are some very, very good older plasterers, shall I say. Yeah, so like very long in the tooth, been plastering for 400,000 years. It's very evident by the comments they say that they do consider themselves a cut above the rest. That is very obvious, unfortunately. But there's this whole thing about you've got to stick to traditional and, you know, blah, 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 and what have you. No. Sorry, you know, this is a long game. You know, at the end of the day, you'll be in it for 40 years. You know, you think of people like Tara. Tara, please don't take offence in this in any way whatsoever. But generally, you know, men tend to be a little bit heavier set, don't they? They tend to be a little bit muscular. So if it's tiring for a man, it would be even more tiring for a woman initially. You know, very hard on your joints and what have you. Tara, I hope you don't get offended by that. So anything just to make your life easier. You know, let's not be stupid here. Let's, you know, the most important thing is to protect our bodies.
Yeah, that's how I see those kind of tools. If they make the job easier and they still do a good job, they don't replace. What I try to say to some of the older guys that slag them off basically is, look, guys, if it makes it easier on your joints and guys want to use them, then that's why they use them. If you don't want to use them and you want to just crack on just using your one Marshalltown trowel, that's absolutely fine. There's nothing wrong with being traditional, but it's silly to sort of the old progress wagon say, "Oh no, I'm not getting on the progress wagon because it's it's not like it used to be," you know. And I'm saying you're getting that from a 60-year-old practically plasterer. You know, I don't. I don't.
I always think that though. Like, who of us here would go back to mixing with a plunger?
Never.
Like, no one. Like,
the whisk was the best invention ever.
Yeah, who is going to do that? Do you know what? If my whisk broke, like my drill broke, and someone said, "Here is a plunger," I'd be like, "See you later. I'm going on."
You couldn't knock up a lot of gear with those plungers. If you had a good labourer, he'd line up 4 or 5 buckets and he'd whisk them all up with a stick, and then take the old plunger through them. And if he's supplying you, then that's great because you're not doing the knocking up. But as soon as I got a whisk. I think that's probably when I went on my own. Yeah.
I'm just looking at some of the other comments. Matt Buck, what's your go for distemper? So
that could be a problem.
Generally, it's very rare I get caught, if I'm being honest with you. So generally, for a start with distemper, certainly down where we are in the east. Southeast. Distemper really occurred around houses that were built between 1925 and 1930. So if I think the houses are built around that, I will ask them how old's the house. If it falls in that window, especially if we're plastering over Artex, immediately I will say to them that this will have to be boarded. Even if it looks sound, I will tell them, you know, based on my experience, this is a bad idea. You know, blah, 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 blah. The other thing I have as well, in my contract, when I send the quote, I specifically name distemper. So it's not massively common where it causes an issue on walls. It tends to be on ceilings, of which it specifically says that, you know what, if distemper occurs, it will have to be overboarded at the cost of the homeowner. So what will then subsequently happen is they will actually pay for the attempt to plaster the ceiling initially. Then they will pay for it to be boarded, and they will pay for it to be plastered for a second time. So if they have any concern over this, then they just get things like that boarded. The other thing we always do when we do an inspection on a house is one of the good ways to tell if you've got distemper is undo the rosette in the light and then have a look at what's underneath the rosette. So rub your thumb underneath the rosette. Quite often the distemper will be there, so you get a good idea if you've got bad Artex and things like that. Generally, so because they don't tend to Artex underneath the rosette. On the walls, if we spot it, which again I think in the last 5 years it's only ever been occurred once on the walls, and we didn't even get to the point where we were applying plaster. We actually saw it, we blue gritted the walls and it bubbled up, and it started to peel, so we scraped all the blue grit back off, had it washed down. But in 5 years, that's the only time I've ever had it on walls. So it's pretty darn rare. Richard, spray bottle or brush?
Both.
It's only a spray bottle if I have to sponge. And generally it's a brush for me. 2 reasons. I'm a firm believer in unloading fat off your trowel regularly, so I probably will only do 2 or 3 strokes before I unload the trowel. And I think it's a lot easier to direct the water where you want it, but I actually brush the plaster rather than flick it, so I don't like flicking either. Spraying, you tend to get too much mess, in my opinion. But I do think you get a better finish. I will say that because the water's clean, whereas dirty water, you tend to get that where it's pale pink, where it's kind of getting manky water, basically.
So that's Tara again. No, it's like what you're saying. It really is hard work. I'll do what I can to make things easier on my joints, and thankfully there's so many new tools to help with that now. Yeah, that's true. Yeah. 2nd Parachute Regiment. Hello, mate. Is it okay to use dial-up internet? That's traditional. I tell you what, mate, we wouldn't be doing this with dial-up internet.
You crack up. Tara, just as a suggestion, just thinking of your comment, one of the things that is always suggested to me, which makes a big difference, is if you can get those exercise things for your hands, where you the grips. If you do that for 20 minutes, half an hour every day, it'll massively increase the strength on your forearm, which will make a big difference. Just as a minor suggestion, as you've only just come into the trade. So yeah.
Right, mate. It's been a pleasure, but I've got better knock it on the head. We're 8:45.
Where's it? I can't believe there's still 51 people listening to us talk absolute rubbish.
Wow, mate. That's the whole point.
That's
the whole point of having an interview.
No one else have it. Yeah, I think so. Does no one else have anywhere else to go?
No, well, that's what I thought when I first started the thing. Well, Monday night, who's going to watch or talk about plastering? And especially, I mean, now that it still gets dark still quite early, but in the middle of summer, when it's baking hot out and you could be having a barbecue in the garden, the guys are coming for a chat, which is fantastic. I'm not knocking it at all, guys.
It is. It is. Is there any more questions before we're going to go? This is your last chance, and then I'm going to eat dinner.
That's two of us. That's two of us, Alex.
What have you got for dinner? Just out of curiosity, make me jealous.
I've just got a bit of. It's not a proper dinner, in my opinion. Chips, beans, and quiche Lorraine. I was going to have it beforehand, but I ran out of time, and then we had our little hiccup, didn't we? With the old technology.
I know that.
Hello,
if
Mark.
anyone wants to see Eric, have a little flat, come and do it. Come and do an interview with him. Do you know what I would love to see one day? I would love to do a live stream where we get to meet some of the subs. So find a platform where you can have multiple people on at one time. That would be so cool.
I can bring more than. I haven't tried it yet. I can bring more than one person onto this. I'd have to rearrange the screen so it can fit people on. But we'll definitely give that a go at some point. So we'll get something organised.
Nice. Well, it has been Matt saying a plastering convention. That would be.
I did mention that about 6 or 8 months ago. I said we should get together for a bit of a Beano. I went, oh no, a plastering convention is what I meant to say. Where we all meet up and we discuss the ins and outs of plastering, but at a nice hotel somewhere over a weekend.
So when I was doing kitchen fitting, I went to a couple of those. It was a right laugh.
Yeah, exactly.
It's
just organising it, though, mate.
It usually consisted of some of the old codgers getting absolutely smashed. No. It was so funny. Terrible. Yeah, just like kitchen fitters are just the worst. It was very, funny.
I might get you to organise that, Alex, if you're not busy.
No, well, Stuart seems like the most organised.
I think you might be right there, mate. Actually, so I shall mention it to him if he wants to try and organise it. Because it's just because people in different parts of the country, and you kind of think, oh, where could we go? Where's the easiest kind of place to meet for everybody? And
someone's just said Benidorm.
Oh, yeah.
I'm pretty sure H. Silver. I'm pretty sure he likes to use that special trowel that you really enjoy.
I think that might be Silver, yeah. Which is, mate, if you get, like I said, if you get on with something and you're happy, and and more importantly, your customer or client is happy, then go for it.
I am hoping that Anthony brings it up next week because he loves it, doesn't he?
Well, we shall. We shall see, mate.
I'm being genuinely serious. What's that? I'm looking forward to seeing Anthony on.
So I might. It'd be nice to have a proper chat with him, mate. Because I've only chatted with Ant on over the socials. I haven't had a good tonight for me and you. It's the first time me and you have spoken to each other. You know, and
it was painful.
Painful. Well, mostly at the beginning for me, mate. Other than that, it's mostly you doing the work. So.
Well, the only panic I had was looking at my phone. It was on 37%. We hadn't even started yet, and I had to do this mad dash upstairs to go and plug it in. It wasn't brilliant at all. I don't know who suggested Benidorm, though. I mean, we could do better than that. I'm thinking something like Mauritius would be much nicer.
On, mate. Yeah, if you pay. You put, I shall wait to get me ticket in the
What about?
post and me invite.
What are you talking about? You're a plasterer as well. Don't tell me you don't rob customers blind as
Yeah,
well.
but I know, but much more. I rob them blind much more slowly than you do.
Oh,
So
right.
therefore, my wallet is
obviously.
not as bulging, unfortunately.
Not as wedged. Not as wedged. No. Anyway, it has been a pleasure, Eric,
mate.
and thank you so much for everyone that. Thanks for everyone that stayed and listened to our junk for the time. I don't know how many originals stayed, but it was a good laugh.
We'll see. As I say, mate, all the questions you'll be able to glance back over them on the forum, on the live, what do they call it, live something page on there, and because hopefully all that should be on there is the questions from the stream. There won't be any answers, obviously, but they'll all be written down there. So you might just want to have a whip through if you've got time.
I'll have a quick squiz. Hopefully we answered.
Okay, mate. Well, I'll let you know how this video does, mate, because it goes out as a video about 5 minutes after we've finished live broadcasting. So we'll see how we go.
This could be your longest. This could be one of your longest.
Probably, mate.
Videos.
Well, it's been one of the longest ones I've done on the live stream, I think.
Oh,
but it's nice to.
I hope you didn't need the. I hope you didn't need the toilet. You're going to be in trouble.
I felt like I did just before we started. Before I haven't got time. Unfortunately, that feeling's gone away. But I'm sure it'll come rushing back as soon as I stand up. Go and get me dinner. Thanks ever so much, mate, for tonight. Thanks all the you guys and girls for coming along and having a usual listen and chat. And I think for a lot of the regulars, it is really nice since I started doing the interviews that they don't just have to listen to me and my dulcet tones. That's why I have the phone line in as well. I say, come on, guys, someone ring so there's someone else to talk to, and it's not just me going, oh well, why don't you do this? Or yeah, you could do that. But still they come, and that's why I love them. So, cheers, guys, for that. Cheers, Alex. I do this every week. I try and find the me off button, and I can never remember where it is.
I'll just stand here like a statue.
Pretend you're frozen. Hang on, mate.
I'll be like this, and then hopefully I'll get stuck on the screen or something like Stuart did.
Yeah. Right. Me and Alex are off now to have some dinner. Thanks a lot, everybody. Cheers again, Alex, and I'll speak to you soon.
Thanks again, guys.
Bye, buddy. Bye.